Numbers chapter 30. Keeping or nullifying vows. Moses spoke to the princes of the tribes of Bani Israel, saying, "This is what Adonai has commanded. Parashat Matot. Whenever a man makes a vow to Adonai or swears an oath to obligate himself by pledge, he is not to violate his word, but is to do everything coming out of his mouth. Suppose a woman in her youth vows to Adonai or obligates herself by a pledge in her father's house. If her father should hear her vow or her pledge, which she obligated herself, and her father says nothing to her, all her vows and every pledge by which she has obligated herself will stand. But if her father should forbid it on the day of his hearing it, none of her vows or pledges which she has obligated herself will stand. Adonai will forgive her because her father has forbidden her. Suppose she should marry after her vow or a rash promise of her lips by which she obligated herself. Now if her husband hears about it, but says nothing to her on the day he hears about it, her vows will still stand, and her pledges by which she has obligated herself will stand. But if her husband should hear about it, and on the day he hears it he forbids it, he thereby nullifies her vow and her rash promise by which her lips have obligated her, and Adonai will forgive her. Any vow or obligation of a widow or a divorced woman will be binding on her. If in her husband's house she vowed or obligated herself by pledge under oath, and her husband should hear it and say nothing to her, not forbidding her, all her vows and every pledge by which she has obligated herself will stand. But if her husband should nullify them on the day when he hears of them, nothing from her lips with her vow or pledge will stand. Her husband has nullified them, and Adonai will forgive her. Her husband may ratify or veto any vow or sworn oath to deny herself. But if her husband says nothing to her from day to day, then he is confirming all her vows and all her oaths that are on her. He confirms them by saying nothing to her on the day of his hearing about it. But if he nullifies them after hearing about it, he will bear her guilt. These are the statutes that Adonai gave to Moses relevant to relationships between a man and his wife, as well as between a father and his young daughter still living in his house. Numbers 31. Vengeance of Midian and Balaam. Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, "Take vengeance on the Midianites for Bani Israel. Afterwards you will be gathered to your people." So Moses spoke to the people, saying, "Mobilize some of your men for battle. They will go out against Midian to carry out Adonai's vengeance on Midian. Send into battle 1,000 men from each of the tribes of Israel." So from the thousands of Israel, 1,000 from each tribe were assigned, 12,000 in all. Moses sent them into battle, 1,000 from each tribe, and with them Phinehas, the son of Phinehas, son of Eleazar the Kohen, who took with him articles from the sanctuary and trumpets for signaling. They fought Midian, and just as Adonai commanded Moses, and killed every male. Among the slain, they also killed the Midianite kings, Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, the 5 kings of Midian. They also killed Balaam, son of Beor, with the sword. Bani Israel also captured women and sons of Midian, along with all their herds and flocks, and plundered all their goods. They burned with fire all the Midianite cities, settlements, as well as all their camps. They seized all the plunder and all the spoil, both people and animals. They brought the captives' plunder and spoils to Moses. Eleazar the Kohen, into the assembly of Bani Israel at their camp in the plains of the Moab by the Jordan at the Jericho. Moses, Eleazar, and Kohen, and all of the princes of the community went to meet them outside the camp. But Moses was angry with the officers of the army, the commanders of thousands, the commanders of hundreds, those returning from the campaign of the war. Moses said to them, "You let all the women live? Why, they are the ones, because of Balaam's advice, who caused Bani Israel to be unfaithful to Adonai in the matter of Peor, so that the plague was on the community of Adonai. So now kill all the boys and kill every woman who has been intimate with a man, but save for yourselves every girl who has been intimate with a man. Any of you who has killed anyone or touched the body of anyone who has been killed must stay outside the camp for 7 days. You must purify yourselves on the 3rd and 7th days, you and your captives. Also purify every item of clothing as well as every item made of leather or wood." Eleazar said to the men of the army who had gone to war, "This is the regulation of the Torah Adonai gave to Moses. The gold, silver, bronze, iron, tin, lead, and anything able to pass through the fire is to be put through the fire and will then be clean. It is also to be purified with water of cleansing. Anything that cannot stand the fire is to be put through the water. You are to wash your clothes on the 7th day. You will then be clean and then may come into the camp." Adonai said to Moses, saying, "Count the total spoil from the captive people and the animals. You, Eleazar the Kohen, and the princes of the fathers of the community, you are to divide the spoil between those fighting in the war, taking part in the battle, and the rest of the community. You are also to set apart from the men of the war going into battle tribute to Adonai, 1 item from every 500, whether persons, cattle, donkeys, or flocks. From their half share, take it and give it to Eleazar the Kohen as Adonai's part. From the half of Bani Israel you are to take 150, whether persons, cattle, donkeys, flock, or any other animal, and give them to the Levites, those charged with the care of Adonai's tabernacle. So Moses and Eleazar the Kohen did just as Adonai commanded. The remaining plunder taken by the people of the army was 675,000 sheep, 72,000 cattle, 61,000 donkeys, and whom the human spoil were 32,000 women who had never been intimate with a man. The half share of those going into the battle was 337,500 sheep, of which Adonai's tribute was 675, 36,000 cattle, of which Adonai's tribute was 72, 3,500 donkeys, of which Adonai's tribute was 61, and 16,000 persons, of which the tribute to Adonai was 32. Moses gave the tribute, Adonai's part, to Eleazar the Kohen, just as Adonai had commanded Moses, from the half belonging to Bani Israel, which Moses had set apart from that of the fighting men. Half belonging to the community was 337,500 of the sheep, 36,000 cattle, 30,500 donkeys, 16,000 persons. From this half, Moses took one out of every 50 persons and animals, as Adonai had commanded him, and gave them to the Levites, who charged with the care of the tabernacle of Adonai, as Adonai had commanded Moses. Then the officer over the units of the army, the commanders over thousands and hundreds, came to Moses. They said to him, "Your servants have counted the heads of the men of war under our command, and not one is missing. So we have brought as an offering to Adonai the gold items each of us acquired, armlets, bracelets, signet rings, earrings, and necklaces to atone for ourselves before Adonai." Moses and Eleazar the Kohen received the gold from them. All the crafted items, all the gold presented as a gift to Adonai, came to 16,750 shekels from the commanders of thousands and hundreds. Each of the men of the army had taken plunder for himself. Moses and Eleazar the Kohen received the gold from the commander of thousands and of hundreds and brought it to the tent of meeting as a memorial for Bani Israel before Adonai. Numbers 32, settling on the east side. The sons of Reuben and Gad had very large herds and flocks, and they saw that the territory of Jazer and Gilead were ideal for livestock. So the sons of Reuben and Gad came and said to Moses, Eleazar the Kohen, and the princes of the community, saying, Adaroth, Dibon, Jazer, Nimrah, Heshbon, Eliela, Sebam, Nebo, and Beon, the territory Adonai conquered before the community of Israel, are suitable for livestock, and your servants have livestock. Then they said, If we have found favor in your eyes, let this territory be given to your servants as a possession. Don't make us cross the Jordan. Moses replied to the sons of Gad and Reuben, Should your countrymen go to war while you dwell here? Why do you dishearten Bani Israel from going across to the land that Adonai has given to them? Your fathers did this when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to look over the land. They went up to the valley of Eshcol and viewed the land, and they discouraged the hearts of Bani Israel not to enter the land which Adonai had given them. The anger of Adonai was aroused that day, and he swore an oath, saying, The men who came out of Egypt from 20 years old and upward will not see the land I promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, for they have not followed after me with a whole heart, except Caleb son of Jephunneh, and the Kenizzite, and Joshua son of Nun, for they were wholehearted after Adonai. The anger of Adonai burned against Israel, and he caused them to wander in the wilderness for 40 years, until all the generation doing what that evil in Adonai's sight was gone. Now look, here you stand in the place of your fathers, as a brood of sinful men, to add more to Adonai a great wrath against Israel. If you turn away from him, he will repeat again, leaving his people in the wilderness, you being the cause of the people's destruction. Then they came up to him and said, We will build sheepfolds for our livestock and cities for our children, but we are to prepare to arm ourselves and go ahead of Bani Israel until we have brought them to their place. Our children will live in the cities fortified against the inhabitants of the land. We will not return to our homes until each one of Bani Israel has received his inheritance. And we will not inherit with them on the side beyond the Jordan, since our inheritance has come on the east side of the Jordan. Moses said to them, If you will do this, if you will arm yourselves for battle for Adonai, and if you cross the Jordan until Adonai has driven his enemies before him, and the land is subdued before Adonai, then afterward you may return to be free from Adonai in Israel. Then this territory will be your possession before Adonai. But if you don't do this, behold, your sin against Adonai, be assured, your sin will find you out. Build for yourself cities for your children, pens for your flocks, then do what has come out of your mouth. The sons of Gad and Reuben said to Moses, saying, Your servants will do just as my Lord is commanding. Our children, our wives, our flocks, and all of our herds will remain here in the cities of Gilead. But your servants, everyone armed for battle, will cross over for the war before Adonai, just as my Lord says. Moses then gave orders about them to Eleazar the Kohen, Joshua son of Nun, and to the chiefs of the fathers of the tribes of Bani Israel. Moses said to them, If the sons of Gad and Reuben cross over the Jordan with you, everyone armed for battle before Adonai, when the land is subdued before you, then give them territory of Gilead as a possession. However, if they do not cross over fully armed, they are to possess the land of Canaan with you. The sons of Gad and Reuben answered, saying, What Adonai said to your servants, so we will do. We will cross fully armed before Adonai into Canaan, but our inheritance will be on this side of the Jordan. Moses then gave to them the sons of Gad, Reuben, and half of the tribe of Manasseh, son of Joseph, the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, the land with its cities, and the territory around the cities. The sons of Gad built up Dibon, Ataroth, and Aroer, as well as Atroth, Shaphan, Jazer, Jogbaha, Beth Nimrah, and Beth Haran as fortified cities, as well as sheep pens. The sons of Reuben built Heshbon, Elialah, Kiriathaim, Nebu, Baal-meon, cities whose names were changed, and Sibmah. They gave other names to the rebuilt cities. The sons of Machir, sons of Manasseh, went up to Gilead, captured it, and drove out the Amorites who were there. So Moses gave Gilead to Machir, son of Manasseh, and he lived there. Jair, son of Manasseh, went and captured their settlements, and named them Jair's village. Nobah went and conquered Kenath and its settlements, and named them Nobah after his own name.